ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਡਿਸਕਸ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਵੱਖ-ਵੱਖ ਲੀਗਲ ਐਕਸਪਰਟਸ ਨੇ ਰਾਹੀਂ ਕਿ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਡਿਪਾਰਟਮੈਂਟ ਆਫ ਜਸਟਿਸ ਇਨ ਰეკਮੈਂਡੇਸ਼ਨਸ ਤੇ ਐਕਟ ਕਰੂਗਾ ਜਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੀਗਲ ਬੇਸਿਸ ਕੀ ਬਣਦਾ ਹੈ ਇਨ ਸਾਰੀ ਰეკਮੈਂਡੇਸ਼ਨਸ ਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਫਿਰ ਇਨ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਡਿਸਕਸ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਜੁਆਇਨ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਐਸਟੀਮਡ legal mind, Mr. Ravi Batra. Sab to pehle, Ravi ji, welcome to the program. Great to have you. Sat Sri Akal.
Sat Sri Akal to you, and congratulations for becoming a new mom.
Thank you so much.
With every new child born, hope gets a new promise of life. So we wish your son and every other new child that's born a better life than the one we're currently living in.
Ravi ji, thank you so much for those wishes. I really appreciate them. So close to the holiday season. You know, we're talking about making a better life here. You said it yourself. You know, one could argue that the Congressional Committee investigating the January 6th riot was seeking to do the same, to better our democracy. But these findings, they're not necessarily being received as such. There's so much controversy around the recommendations. Let's start first with, you know, what's the significance, right, of this kind of a recommendation from a congressional committee to the Department of Justice? Historically speaking, has this ever been done before?
So the closest we came was in Watergate. And Watergate would have done the same. There was a select committee chaired by Sam Ervin as chairman, which Benny now Thompson has chaired the select committee. But that was back in the 70s. But Richard Nixon was nice enough to resign. But to go back to your larger point, you know, we just talked about hope being re-energized by the birth of your son. Well, what the select committee of January 6th is doing is to give a rebirth to American exceptionalism, because we have literally hit that one weak point in our system that no founding father or mother could have. There was no way around this, because we can create all the rules and all the constitutions and all the laws, but it always comes down to people. And if the people don't honor those words, if they don't honor their oath of office, when you raise your hand to swear and tell the truth in court, you've taken the oath. When you have an inauguration of a president, you hear a man or a woman, up till now a man, but there will be a woman who will take the oath and say 35 words. The most important of which is that they will defend the Constitution from enemies, foreign and domestic. Unfortunately, the select committee for January 6th insurrection was dealing with not only the fact that the Constitution wasn't defended from enemies, foreign and domestic. They were looking at the president of the then sitting president of the United States as being the headmaster, the lead orchestra player, or the orchestra conductor of the insurrection. And so you have these four referrals. There's many others, but we can handle the four coming out of the committee before it closes up shop, as each Congress has a jurisdictional clock of 2 years. Every Congress sits for 2 years. So their clock runs out when the new Congress starts. And so they've done their job. It's a very sad job. I think all of us, whether we agree or disagree, because politics can shade the truth, and frankly, politics should not shade the truth. Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, if you're sitting in a math class, 2 + 2 better equal 4. If it equals less than 4, then I submit you're not honest. So, you know, politics should not lead us to dishonesty, which unfortunately it does. And the best example I can give you is, you know, surgeons, when they are operating, they always like to put their patient under anesthesia and knock him out cold so they don't stop moving. Politics, on the other hand, allows the body politic, the citizenry, to keep moving, talking, and expressing opinions of which they know nothing about. So while everybody has a right to have an opinion, they don't have the right to their own facts, as has been said many, many, many times none better than the former late Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan. So what has happened yesterday is really twofold. The Congress of the United States, which is where the peaceful transfer of power takes place. You know, we know this phrase, but we don't know where that peaceful transfer of power takes place. Well, now we do, thanks to Donald J. Trump. It takes place in the Congress in a joint session where the Electoral College vote is counted and certified by the sitting vice president. That's when the actual rubber meets the road of the peaceful transfer of power. It's not the January 20th. It's on that day, at that moment, in that chamber of the House of Representatives. And so on January 6th of last year, Mike Pence was an American constitutional hero. He still is.
Right.
But on that day, he was equal to that wonderful line in the Amistad movie, you know, at this moment, I am the only reason all my ancestors lived. Well, on January 6th of 2021, when Mike Pence did not run for cover and actually certified the Electoral College vote, on that day, every founder existed because of him. Because if he didn't do his job, America, as we know, would have.
But it's interesting you mentioned Vice President Mike Pence because he was one of the lawmakers that was under attack, essentially. The rioters were coming for him just as much as everybody else.
Hang
Nancy
Mike
Pelosi.
Pence. Hang Mike Pence. That was the chant.
He was absolutely under attack, and yet today Mike Pence is on the record saying that he hopes the Department of Justice does not follow through on the referrals. Before we even get to that comment, Raviji, you have this storied career as a legal expert, a legal mind, as well as an advisor in the most diplomatic.
I'm a monk in the monastery of law, my dear.
Of situations.
It's an unending. Ask your granthis who sit in gurudwaras. They can read the same Guru Granth Sahib, and the words mean something different each time.
Yep.
So I'm no different. It's a journey.
But it's certainly a very accoladed journey. But with your experience in mind here, will DOJ even follow through on these referrals? Do they have what they need to bring about a prosecution?
So the Department of Justice does not need a co-equal branch of government to tell them what to do. In fact, a co-equal branch of government cannot tell them what to do because they have prosecutorial discretion. The key to any prosecutorial power is not to bring charges. The maximum power of a prosecutor is not when they fire the bullet like any police officer. The maximum power of a police officer is when they're standing at the corner and they can stand down 100 protesters with only 6 bullets in their gun because they didn't fire any bullets.
Yeah.
So the maximum power of the DOJ is in their prosecutorial discretion. And when they decide, based upon very calibrated processes, that they're going to charge somebody, the society has a right to expect that judgment will be independent, it will be impartial, and it will not be in favor of or against anyone. Okay? So the impartiality standard, the independence standard, doesn't apply to the bench alone. It applies to prosecutors because they're not in the business of winning cases. They're in the business of bringing justice, getting justice done. That's very different. Okay, it's a different standard than a defense counsel. Defense counsel job is to make sure that the constitutional processes were honored and the client is protected the maximum abilities of the counsel within the rules of law. That doesn't mean suborning perjury, altering evidence, and the like, which too many of our sisters and brethren engage in. So what occurred yesterday is a co-equal branch of government sent over the referral of 4 charges for former President Donald Trump. All they did was save a postage because everything they had Jack Smith, who's been appointed special counsel
Yep.
for Donald Trump already a month ago, thanks to Donald Trump, because sometimes I think for a brilliant man that he is, Donald Trump, I don't think he even knows how to play checkers, let alone chess. Because the day he said, I am running for president, he created the avenue, a necessary avenue for Merrick Garland
Yep.
to appoint special counsel. It was no longer a if, it was had to be done,
Right.
because Biden also said, I'm running. So with Biden running and Trump running, Merrick Garland had to appoint special counsel. So now there is a fisherman by the name of Jack Smith who's only looking at one fish,
Right.
Donald Trump. And that's not good for any fish when a prosecutor is looking at one fish. Ask Bill Clinton. Otherwise, we would never have heard about Monica Lewinsky. Who gives a damn about a stained dress?
Right.
Okay. Okay. And here, the whole world went through, what Jackie Mason used to kid about. They redefined sex. But what occurred yesterday is very important, because a co-equal branch of government stood up and said the peaceful transfer of power, which occurs in the House of Representatives every 4 years, was disturbed. And yet, despite the disturbance and the insurrection, the people who honored their oath of office, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell, even Kevin McCarthy, the incoming speaker, all of them honored their oath of office, and they did their job. Okay, so yesterday, whatever they had accumulated,
Right.
because a co-equal branch of government in the legislature has something called a legislative deliberative privilege, which is why they can do this. They're not in the prosecutorial business. They're in the business of creating new law. So this entire enterprise is designed so can a future Congress learn from its experience, this investigation, and come up with new laws that will protect the ballot box. Will it protect the ballots itself, electoral security? We talk about cyber hacking. If Russia can interfere with Ukrainian
Right.
Electrical grid, well, don't you think somebody could come up with an algorithm that can, get into election harvesting, ballot harvesting? So while anything is possible, thank God that has not taken place so far.
Right.
So this was very, very important. And by them turning it over, it's simply, they saved a postage stamp, because Jack Smith could have said to them, sent a subpoena and said, give me everything you got.
Right.
And they would have given it.
Right.
Okay.
But these meetings were publicly televised. I mean, they had like a big shot television producer guide the committee on how to share this information with the public in a way that was basically akin to a drama playing out in real life. Raviji, last question. There's 4 big charges you mentioned, and of course the whole situation has been complicated by the fact that former President Trump has announced his campaign for 2024 again. How likely is it, once again, that President Trump gets charged with any of these referrals? And if so, which do you think is most likely to stick? And I'm specifically wondering about the obstruction charge here, because that's the one, if it sticks, then under the 14th Amendment, he's officially barred from seeking public office. How likely is it the obstruction charge sticks?
Well, the only honest answer to your question would require me to know what Jack Smith knows, and I don't know what Jack Smith knows. So only Jack Smith can answer your question, and I suspect he won't, as he shouldn't. But, prosecutors, like judges, talk through their prosecutions, right? So what they choose to indict or not indict is a message. If you're asking me, do I believe there will be an indictment from the DOJ? As much as I did not want President Trump's Mar-a-Lago to have been searched the way it was by the FBI, I know there are many who say that no chances, there was no other choice left. But we've created a new problem for our republic, which is a future president who commits a crime, knows he committed a crime, will not step down. And so now we have where Mike Pence was the hero in 2021, in the future risk to our republic, our next hero is going to be the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the military commander who refuses a direct order from martial law or some other military junior commander. So we have created a new risk. Like prior to COVID, nobody heard of COVID, SARS-CoV-2. So now, because of Donald J. Trump, we now have a new pandemic, a new virus in our republic, which is a future bad president who's committed a crime and knows he's committed a crime, which he'll be indicted for, may not, like Richard Nixon, leave, but rather order his military to commit martial law. So we on those issues is why Mike Pence and I are of the same mindset. We don't come out the same place, but we have the same issues, which is sometimes the solution to a problem can cause a new problem as big or bigger.
Right.
So we're kind of in that zone there. But once we're walking on the road of rule of law, then we must follow through on this. And following through on this, we don't have to worry about an indictment by the DOJ to knock out Donald J. Trump in 2024. Donald J. Trump is dead on arrival in 2024. In 2022 midterms, the American people have already rejected him. Okay? The red wave didn't even turn out to be a red ripple. If it wasn't for our New York State bad politics of Andrew Cuomo and others, there would not even have been a change in the House of Representatives.
Right.
So as a result, I mean, you have to give President Joe Biden a lot of credit. If politics is about vote banking, he's a great vote banker because he took slice after slice after slice and kept bringing him over to the Democratic side. But you have to understand something. America was not created for a one-party rule. America's birth, America's exceptionalism, is because we separated power 3 ways.
Yep.
We don't like power being collected.
Yep.
If you're a true American, you don't like power. You suspect power because you know that power is accumulated, it causes bad things. So we split it 3 ways, and then for fair measure, we said all 3 of you, the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary, the hell with all of you. We're going to give the public, the citizenry, a Bill of Rights against all of you. So actually, the power was split 3, and then again, we're the government versus the public. And then it was Abraham Lincoln who said the 3 branches of government, if they don't serve the public, you shouldn't continue as a republic. So that's what's at stake here. And I'm very, very pleased and very grateful to Liz Cheney and every member of the Select Committee on January 6th for doing this painful job of going through our bad politics. Because the fact that Donald J. Trump could get even a single American who loves America to show up and climb and attack the Capitol tells us that our politics is wrong, that there is a separation between the governed and the governed. Okay? So the government should not be an alien to the people it governs. And there is a disconnect there. So we have some problems to work out. And having, and going from one side to the other, and for example, January 3rd, it'll be Hunter Biden on the menu, morning, noon, and night. It'll be like my cousin Vinny, went to the diner. They looked at the menu as breakfast, lunch, dinner. That's all it said. Well, it will be Hunter Biden for all 3 menus. Okay.
Right.
So while that may be salutary in the minds and souls of some,
right,
but it doesn't serve to unify us. Okay. So we do have to figure out how to put our national motto in practice, which is e pluribus unum, out of many one. So, and we're in trouble because we don't have melting pots anymore, Asmita. People actually rejoice being hyphenated Americans.
Right.
And as long as we're hyphenated, it's so much easier to self-divide. So we do need that melting pot back that used to exist. And it was there until World War II. It's really after the 1960s that we've gotten this something else. And this something else is a danger to the Republic.
It's like they say, I mean, we're talking about power and uncertain times. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And we can certainly be thankful of the Jan 6th Congressional Committee for pulling us back from that scenario. You know, what lies ahead, you know, will become very, very clear on January 3rd if it isn't already. But Mr. Ravi Batra, as always, elucidating conversation. And thank you for bringing us back into American history to show us a glimpse into the future. Appreciate it.
But I want you and your viewers to know that they can sleep peacefully at night because Jack Smith is a great lawman.
Yeah.
Okay? And he will not do something that's wrong. And if he cannot prove his case, he will not indict.
Yep.
Although I can tell you, I fully expect an indictment because on what I know already, I would indict in my sleep. Okay?
Wow.
Because what has occurred on January 6th is the ultimate sacrilege. If America is faith, then the ultimate sacrilege was committed on January 6th. That's when I divorced myself from Donald Trump, having voted for the guy. I mean, no use for him because he's worse than Benedict Arnold.
Those are some really powerful words, a scathing representation of the sea change that is occurring in the American public when it comes to Donald J. Trump. Mr. Ravi Batra, as always, thank you so much for your time. Do join us and share more of your views soon. But for now, Sanu deo ijazat.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Sat Sri Akal, happy holidays. Take care, sir.
Thank you. All the best. Bye-bye.
Thank you.